Good evening. I'm Steve Kornacki in for Chris Matthews. For a president who has built a career on fighting back, the past few days have been surprisingly quiet for Donald Trump. On Sunday, in front of 22 million viewers, Stormy Daniels broke her silence about an alleged sexual relationship with Trump back in 2006. White House officials have repeatedly denied those allegations. According to the Washington Post, though, President Trump watched the show and privately lashed out against the adult film star, telling aides that her allegations are a hoax and complaining to people that Daniels is not the type of woman he finds attractive. The paper also reports that according to a Republican in touch with the White House, the president has convinced himself the scandal will blow over, in part because for decades Trump deliberately presented himself as a Manhattan millionaire playboy. NBC News reported that several aides have urged the president to remain quiet because the story doesn't rise to the level of warranting a presidential response. In the past, however, President Trump has relished the idea of punching back against any perceived slight. Take a look at this.
I noticed Chuck Schumer yesterday with fake tears. I'm going to ask him who is his acting coach.
The reason why Democrats only talk about the totally made-up Russia story is because they have no message. They can't beat us at the voting booths. So they're trying to cheat you out of the future and the future that you want. They're trying to cheat you out of the leadership you want with a fake story that is demeaning to all of us.
You heard what he said yesterday, Senator McCain.
Yeah, well, I hear it, and people have to be careful because at some point I fight back.
Yeah.
You know, I'm being very nice. I'm being very, very nice. But at some point I fight back, and it won't be pretty.
Trump has used Twitter to attack everyone from the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to Republican Senators Jeff Flake and Bob Corker to former Vice President Joe Biden and many others in between. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was asked today why the self-described counterpuncher has gone uncharacteristically silent. This is what she had to say.
You've also called him a counterpuncher many times. Why is he not punched back on this one?
Look, the president, I didn't say he punches back on every single topic. If he did, he would probably be addressing a lot of the stories that most of you write every single minute of every single day. He also has a country to run, and he's doing a great job with that.
The president so far has shown restraint in public, but according to the Washington Post, senior White House officials believe Daniels' account to be largely credible and considered a serious news story that could deal real and lasting damage to the president. For more, I am joined by Phil Rucker, White House bureau chief for the Washington Post. He wrote that Washington Post story we have been quoting from. Michael Steele, former chairman for the RNC and an MSNBC political analyst, and Midwin Charles, defense attorney and contributor for Essence magazine. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Phil Rucker, I'll start with you. And I think the key right now is that when it comes to Trump's reaction, all we have to go on so far are your descriptions from your sources of what is playing out behind the scenes there at the White House. Let me first ask you a basic question. Is your sense that it's likely to remain that way, that this will continue to be a drama playing out behind the scenes? Or is it more likely we wake up tomorrow morning at 6:15, 6:20 in the morning, and here's 8 tweets from Trump all about this?
Well, Steve, I'm about 99% certain that the drama will continue behind the scenes. The question is whether it becomes public at some point, and there's really no predicting that. But certainly President Trump is paying close attention to what's happening with the Stormy Daniels saga. He saw that 60 Minutes clip. He's also been watching the coverage of it on cable news and in newspapers and other places in the media in the days since. And he's been talking to friends and aides and confidants about the situation. The question really is when he decides to kind of go public and make his first comments. He has not addressed questions regarding this, and frankly, we haven't seen him in public for a few days now.
Well, what's your sense of it, though, from talking to folks there? Is it, I mean, clearly in your story, you've got him saying things privately.
Yeah.
Are aides, are people around him fighting to restrain him, to hold him back? Or is he giving indications that, hey, yeah, this is a fight he doesn't want either, at least right now?
I'm hearing from sources that he's fairly comfortable being restrained at this point. He's been convinced in his conversations with advisors that there's not going to be a real political price yet, that his poll numbers are not dropping because of this, that his base remains loyal to him, especially evangelical Christians, that the president believes. And so he doesn't feel like he needs to get out there and talk about it right now, but he would like for other people to be attacking Stormy Daniels. He likes that his press secretary today and yesterday, the deputy press secretary Raj Shah called the allegations untrue and took a few shots there from the podium at the White House at Stormy Daniels. And I think he'd like to see surrogates be doing more of that.
Now, Michael Steele, Phil Rucker mentions evangelicals who've been one of the largest, staunchest voting blocs behind Trump going back to the days of the Republican primary. So, look, you've got a president here who had tens of millions of people watched on national television as a porn actress, said she had an extramarital tryst with him. Nothing has dented Trump's support from evangelical Christians, but does this potentially change anything?
I don't think it does. I think those folks have sort of, not just drunk the Kool-Aid, but sort of put the IV directly into the veins here on Trump and have been consistent in that. So that gives Trump the space he needs to feel the way he feels. But here's the other side of that feeling. The fact is in my view, has not gone after Stormy Daniels because, A, he doesn't know what she's got. So if he opens up that door where he comes after her, he's like, her attitude and her lawyer's attitude very clearly is, oh, really? Okay, how about this? So there's pushback from other people, the press secretaries, assistant press secretaries, and everyone else saying this didn't happen is not the same as Trump saying it didn't happen. And if Trump comes out the moment he does, that changes this whole thing in relations to how Michael Avenatti and Stormy Daniels come at the president. So far, in my estimation, they pushed him back on his heels a little bit here, which is why he hasn't responded the way he typically does, because the question of what they have, what other shoe they could drop on him, still out there.
So let me get to that with Midwin Charles here, our legal expert. So that question, and look, I will admit, and no offense to the legal profession here, but when you get a lawyer like Stormy Daniels' lawyer out there, I always have to wonder how much of this is bluffing, how much of this is hype, how much is there substance here? It's the way lawyers talk, especially in very public cases like this.
Well, listen,
what should the Trump people be thinking about this?
Lawyers are people too, and I think one of the things that we've seen with Michael Avenatti is someone who is playing Trump's game. And, my mom used to always tell me, be careful of the games you play because other people can play it too, and sometimes they can beat you. Two can play that game. What we've seen with Michael Avenatti here is what I always say is a good strategy. When an attorney can play both defense and offense, you never know what you're going to get. I personally think that's one of the reasons why Trump has not said anything and hasn't done anything. I've read the complaint. I have it right here. And it's very clear that the two of them agreed that there's property that exists here, whether it's photographs or communications or text messages. So I believe the reason why Trump is being quiet is there's a real concern here that this information may get out if he starts talking.
And the range of possibility, I mean, it's all speculation here. I mean, the potential stuff you're talking about could be embarrassing stuff, titillating stuff like that, or are we looking at, from a legal standpoint, are there things that you see here, though, that are potentially involved?
I think it could be all kinds of information. It could be photographs. It could be communications. All kinds of things that would, believe it or not, further embarrass the President of the United States. I mean, I think we can all agree that many things have already occurred that have embarrassed him, but these are things that potentially could do damage to him, I think.
The editorial board of the Wall Street Journal, a conservative editorial board there, they warned that President Trump, quote, mistakes of character tend to catch up with everyone, adding, quote, the Stormy Daniels case is typical of Mr. Trump's pre-presidential behavior in thinking he can, with enough threats and dissembling, get away with anything. He's never understood that the president can't behave that way, and this may be the cause of his downfall. Meanwhile, a new CNN poll finds a majority of Americans believe the women alleging affairs. They believe those women over the president. 63% believe the women, just 21% believe President Trump. That CNN poll that's out there, Michael Steele, it also shows President Trump, this may or may not be related to all this, I don't know, also shows President Trump's approval rating for him ticking up to one of the better places it's been. Still in the low 40% range, nothing to write home about, but not exactly crashing here. And that's the kind of thing I've been wondering about. I go back to Bill Clinton in the 1990s, and you remember when the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke, it kind of didn't come out of nowhere for people. There'd been the Jennifer Flowers scandal in the campaign. Paula Jones had stepped forward. We'd heard these names. We'd heard these suggestions. So it was shocking in some ways, in other ways not so much. Maybe there's a strain of that here with Trump, too.
Oh, I think that's very true, Steve. And in fact, I think that's one of the ports that the president sort of rests his boat right now. It's like, we don't need to leave this particular dock because it is helping him. The people out there have discounted this. They've baked it into their understanding, appreciation, knowledge, thinking about this president. So one more reason for him to be quiet. Let's not disabuse them of the notion that there is, that I can somehow get past this, or that I'm a good boy or whatever. He just wants to keep quiet and just do what he needs to do and focus on other things. The whole entree to the North Korea issue, the economy, all those other things are stronger points for him to help take away from the Stormy Daniels storyline, because a lot of people, as the poll says, we believe the women. Well, we've also baked this into who Trump is, and therefore he's not going to pay a penalty point at this point.
Well, and that's the interesting question then for Phil Rucker at the White House, because in your piece, Phil, you have people around the president, some of his advisors, fearing that there could be serious damage, some long-term damage from this. Are there more specifics there in terms of what they're saying, what they think that damage would look like?
Well, publicly, the White House has said that these accusations are not true, that the president denies them. But privately, senior officials in the White House tell me and my colleagues that they believe Stormy Daniels is credible, that her story is real, that this relationship did happen, and that there could potentially be a political problem for the president down the road based on the payment, the hush money, if it were, of $130,000. There's also a danger, I think, and this is according to some political sort of experts we talked to yesterday, if the president were to come out and address this and lie to the American people about the situation, he could lose even more credibility in that scenario. So for him to stay quiet right now and let his spokespeople do the talking is in some ways protecting him from that danger.
Right. So far we haven't had that scene we had with Bill Clinton in January '98 where he said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Yesterday, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels had this to say about reports the president believes that the Daniels controversy is a political hoax. Let's watch.
Why doesn't he just tweet, if in fact he claims this to be true, why doesn't he tweet, she was never in his hotel room, he never had sex with her, he never knew anything about the agreement, he never knew anything about the $130,000. He sends out this surrogate on network television yesterday to call this a hoax. Yeah, it's a hoax. It's a hoax like 9/11 and the moon landing. That's the kind of hoax it is.
So, Midwin Charles, if you are him, if you are Stormy Daniels' lawyer, what is the next move here? Is it just wait for something from Trump? Is there something more sort of proactive? What's the next move from their standpoint?
Wait for something from Trump. But remember, when I talked about defense and offense, one of the offensive things that Michael Avenatti just recently did, I think just yesterday, is to sue Michael Cohen for defamation, for saying that what Stormy Daniels said was a lie. So he's just waiting. I mean, what he just did in that clip was essentially bait Donald Trump to say this isn't true. Because guess what? Defamation lawsuit. And the thing with the defamation lawsuit is the truth is a defense. And boy, can't we wait for the discovery. I mean, we're talking depositions, we're talking documents, we're talking pictures, we're talking all kinds of stuff to prove that what she is saying is credible. And I just don't know anyone who would cut a check for $130,000 for absolutely no reason. If nothing happened, why write the check?
All right, we will see if this is something we are still talking about in a few weeks, if that sort of legal process ends up kicking in and it gets dragged out. I remember with Bill Clinton, that's what it was. He had the independent counsel that kept that story alive, even when the polls were showing the public was kind of done with that. Let's see where this one goes. If it does go somewhere, Michael Steele, Phil Rucker, Midwin Charles, thanks to all of you for joining us. And coming up,